The man was dying, and no one could understand each other. Voices erupted in French, German, Italian, Spanish. 40 people screaming in different languages while a man's lips turned blue on the restaurant floor. The panic was feeding on itself, multiplying. Everyone talking, no one listening. Chaos devouring the seconds he had left. And in the corner, holding a tray of half-eaten appetizers, stood the waitress they'd spent all afternoon destroying. The American one. The stupid one. The one they'd switched languages on mid-sentence just to watch her panic. The one a customer had asked, an hour ago, if Americans even knew how to read. She was shaking. Her apron was still dirty. Her accent, the one they'd mocked, was still thick. But when she spoke, the room went silent.
Donnez-moi le téléphone.
Perfect French.
10 German. Hat einen Herzinfarkt. Wir brauchen sofort einen Defibrillator.
Spanish. Diles que se muevan hacia atrás. Italian. Per favore, fate spazio.
5 languages. Flawless. Commanding. The same people who'd laughed at her pronunciation were now frozen, watching her coordinate paramedics, translate medical history, save a man's life with words they didn't know she could speak. But here's what they didn't know yet. What would make them sick when they found out? Before she'd become the waitress they humiliated for tips, Natalie Corleone had been the most sought-after interpreter in Europe. She'd sat across from presidents. She'd prevented wars with precisely chosen words. She'd been offered positions that came with drivers and security details. And she'd walked away from all of it. Not because she wanted to. Because she had to. Hello my lovelies at Ducal Tales. Welcome. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because this story will make you question everything you think you know about the people serving your coffee. Let me take you back. 6 hours before that man collapsed. 6 hours before the truth came out. To the moment when everything started to break. Table 7 was laughing again. Not polite laughter. The cruel kind, sharp, performed, designed to be overheard. The kind that cut through the Brussels afternoon like broken glass. Natalie Corleone stood at their table with her notepad pressed against her apron, feeling heat crawl up her neck as the man in the tailored suit repeated himself for the 3rd time. Slower. Louder. Like volume could fix what he'd decided was wrong with her. Du. You. Under.
Stand.
English. His companions, a woman whose diamond earrings cost more than Natalie's rent and a younger man whose watch probably cost more than her life, didn't even pretend not to find it amusing. I understand perfectly, sir. Natalie's American accent felt like an apology she hadn't meant to make. You'd like the sole Meunier, no capers, extra lemon. See. The suited man turned to his table. She can follow simple instructions. There's hope yet for American education. The woman leaned forward, her perfume expensive enough to announce itself. Tell me, darling, do they teach geography in American schools? Or is that too ambitious? Natalie's fingers tightened around her pen. She didn't tell them she'd memorized geographic coordinates of 47 capitals for a Vienna summit. Didn't tell them she could recite the UN Charter in 5 languages. Didn't tell them that these simple instructions were keeping her mother alive 4,000 miles away, one tip at a time, one humiliation at a time. I'll get your order in right away, she said, turning before her voice could betray her. Behind her, the younger man switched to French. Mon Dieu, imagine traveling this far and not learning the language. Americans are so limities. Limited. She heard every word, understood every nuance, felt every cut. But she said nothing. Because 3 months ago, she'd made a choice, her pride or her mother's life. And when you're watching someone you love die slowly while insurance companies send rejection letters, pride becomes a luxury you can't afford. The tips from Table 7 would cover 2 days of medication. That math was the only thing that mattered anymore. The afternoon stretched into evening. Light shifted through tall windows, turning brass fixtures golden. Natalie moved through her section with practiced efficiency, her body performing while her mind went elsewhere. To hospital rooms. To her mother's laugh before the illness. To the life she'd left behind. She was clearing table 11 when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Sharp. Panicked. Wrong. At table 7, the military-looking man had gone rigid. His face had lost all color. His hand clutched at his chest. Then he collapsed. The woman with the pearls screamed, high, thin, crystallizing everything into terrible clarity. And the room exploded into chaos.
Quelqu'un, aidez-nous.
French, desperate.
Rufen Sie einen Krankenwagen.
German, urgent.
Llamen a una ambulancia.
Spanish, rising.
Chiamate un medico.
Italian, panicked. 40 sophisticated people speaking 5 languages, and not one of them could understand the others. A man was dying while the room that had mocked someone's accent couldn't organize itself enough to save him. Natalie stood frozen for exactly 2 seconds. Then something her mother had told her echoed. You have a gift, Natalie. Don't waste it trying to be small. The tray clattered against the nearest table. Natalie moved forward. And when she opened her mouth, the waitress they'd destroyed disappeared, and someone else entirely stepped into the light. What happened next would make every person in that room realize they'd made a terrible mistake about who she really was. The paramedics were loading the man into the ambulance when the suited man grabbed Natalie's arm. Wait! His voice was different now, smaller, confused. How did you, those languages, who are you? Around them, 40 people had stopped pretending not to stare. Phones were out, recording. The woman with the diamonds looked pale, shaken. Natalie pulled her arm free gently. Someone who needs to finish her shift. That wasn't just knowing languages, the younger man said, his earlier smugness completely gone. That was professional. Medical terminology. Crisis coordination. You've done this before. I've done a lot of things before. Natalie turned toward the kitchen, but her hands were shaking. The mask she'd maintained for 3 months had cracked, and she could feel everything she'd buried trying to surface. In the kitchen, Chef Bernard was waiting, arms crossed. 43 years I've run this restaurant. Never seen anything like that. He studied her face.
Qui êtes-vous vraiment?
Who are you really? Someone trying to stay invisible, Natalie said quietly. Too late for that. He nodded toward the dining room. Half those people are filming. By tomorrow, you'll be all over the internet. Mysterious American waitress speaks 5 languages perfectly. Your invisibility just ended. The words hit her like ice water. She'd been so focused on saving a life, she hadn't thought about the consequences. If the video went viral, if it reached the wrong people. I need to go. Natalie untied her apron with trembling fingers. Go where? Natalie, what are you running from? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. Impressive performance today. Though you always did work best under pressure. We should talk. The phone nearly slipped from her hands.
Victor.
After 3 months of silence, he'd found her. Which meant he'd been watching. Waiting. And now she'd just broadcast her location to the world. I have to leave. Now. Natalie grabbed her coat, her mind racing through options, escape routes, how fast she could disappear again. Natalie, Chef Bernard started, but she was already moving. Outside, the Brussels evening was cold, street lamps casting golden pools on wet pavement. Natalie walked fast, head down, trying to blend into the crowd. Her apartment was 20 minutes away. She could pack in 10, be gone in 30. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer. Ms. Corleone? A woman's voice, British accent, commanding. This is Diana Pembroke. We met 3 years ago at the Nordic Summit. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't go home. Don't go anywhere. A car is 2 minutes away. How did you? The video from the restaurant has 40,000 views in 2 hours. And one of those views was from someone very dangerous. Diana's voice was urgent. Victor Draven knows where you are. He's already moving. If you go home, you won't be safe. Natalie's blood turned to ice. My mother is being moved to a secure floor as we speak. I have people in Boston. Diana paused. Natalie, you can't run from this anymore. He won't stop looking. But I can help you, if you let me. Why would you help me? Because I know what happened in Geneva. I know Victor used you. And I know he's done it to others. A black car pulled up beside Natalie, window rolling down. Diana sat in the back seat, phone still to her ear. Get in. We need to talk about how to stop him before he destroys you. Natalie stood on the sidewalk, every instinct screaming to run. But Diana was right. Running hadn't kept her safe. It had just delayed the inevitable. She got in the car. Diana pocketed her phone, studied Natalie with sharp eyes. You look different from the Geneva photos. Thinner. Scared. He did that to you. I did that to myself. I believed him when he said mistranslating one phrase would prevent a diplomatic disaster. Natalie's voice was hollow. By the time I realized he'd used my precision as a weapon, it was too late. It's not too late now. Diana pulled out a tablet, showed her a photograph. This is next week's trade summit. 12 nations, 5 languages, tensions that could reshape European policy. Victor's been assigned as senior cultural liaison. Natalie stared at Victor's face on the screen, that calculated smile, those predator's eyes. He'll do it again, Diana continued. Find another interpreter, another way to manipulate negotiations. Unless someone who understands his methods stops him. You want me to work the summit. I want you to expose him. You're the only person who knows his patterns, his tells, his methods. Diana leaned forward. I'm offering you full protection, full medical benefits for your mother, and the chance to make sure Victor never destroys anyone else. Natalie looked out the window at Brussels passing by, the city where she'd hidden, where she'd been small. What if I can't do it? She whispered. Then he wins. And your mother dies knowing her daughter spent her last month serving coffee to people who didn't see her worth. Diana's voice was gentle but firm. Is that how this story ends? Could Natalie face the man who destroyed her career, or would fear keep her invisible forever? The safe house was a modern apartment in Excel, all clean lines and secure locks. Diana's people had swept it twice. Natalie stood at the window, watching the street below, feeling like a stranger in her own life. Her phone rang. Her mother. Baby, there are men outside my hospital room. They say there's security, that you arranged it. Her mother's voice was weak, confused. Natalie, what's happening? Mom, the words stuck in her throat. How could she explain that the life she'd been living was a lie? That the danger she'd run from had finally caught up? Are you in trouble? I'm handling it. That's not an answer. Her mother's voice sharpened despite the illness. Tell me the truth. So Natalie did. Geneva, Victor, the manipulation, the 3 months of hiding. Everything she'd kept locked away came pouring out. Silence on the line. Then, why didn't you tell me? Because you were dying, and I didn't want to add to your burden. Dying is my burden, not yours. Her mother's breath was labored but determined. What I taught you about bullies, do you remember? Fight back so they can't hurt anyone else. Even if it costs you. Especially if it costs you. A pause. Come home, baby. Or don't. But stop running. That man doesn't get to win because you're afraid. After they hung up, Natalie sat in the dark, her mother's words echoing. She was reaching for water when she heard it, a sound from the bedroom. Subtle, wrong. The apartment was supposed to be secure. Natalie moved quietly to the kitchen, grabbed a knife with shaking hands. pushed open the bedroom door. Nothing. But her laptop was open. She'd left it closed. Papers on the desk had been moved. Then she saw it. A photograph, placed carefully on her pillow. Her mother, in her hospital bed. Today's date stamped in the corner. And written on the back in elegant script, "Beautiful woman. Shame about the cancer. Treatments are so expensive, aren't they?" Natalie's legs gave out. She sat on the floor, the photograph clutched in her hands, understanding exactly what it meant. Victor hadn't just found her. He'd been in her apartment, in Diana's supposedly secure safe house. And he'd been to Boston, had been close enough to her mother to take this photo. The message was clear. Nowhere was safe. No one could protect her. And if she didn't cooperate, her mother would pay the price. Her phone buzzed. Victor's number. Against every instinct, she answered. "Natalie." His voice was warm, familiar, poisonous. "I hope you found my gift. You went to see my mother. I visited a sick woman. Very kind of me, actually. We had a lovely chat. She's quite proud of you, did you know? Talked about your career, your gifts." He paused. "She has no idea what you did in Geneva, does she?" "Stay away from her." "Why would I do that? She's delightful. Though I have to say, her prognosis doesn't look good. Stage 4, isn't it? Metastatic. Such an ugly word." His voice dropped lower, intimate and vicious. "But there are treatments. Experimental ones. Very expensive. I have connections. I don't want your help." "Don't you?" "Because I'm looking at her medical records right now, courtesy of a friend at the hospital. And honestly, Natalie, she has maybe 6 months without aggressive intervention." "With it?" He made a thoughtful sound. "Maybe a year. Maybe 2. Depends on so many factors. Quality of care. Stress levels. Whether anyone interferes with her treatment." The threat was crystal clear. "What do you want?" "The same thing I wanted in Geneva, your cooperation. Next week's summit is important. Delicate. I need someone who understands the nuances, who can help smooth certain linguistic rough patches." His voice turned cold. "Work with me, or your mother's treatment becomes unexpectedly complicated. Medication shortages. Insurance denials. Medical errors happen all the time in understaffed hospitals. You're threatening to kill my mother." "I'm offering to save her. There's a difference." He paused. "Diana Pembroke thinks she can protect you. She can't. I've been doing this for 15 years. I always win, Natalie. Always. The only question is whether your mother survives long enough to see you lose." The line went dead. Natalie sat on the floor, the photograph in one hand, the phone in the other, feeling the weight of an impossible choice crushing down on her. Cooperate with Victor and betray everything she believed in, or fight back and watch her mother die. She called Diana, her voice shaking as she explained what happened. "He was in the apartment. Your secure apartment. He got past your people." Diana's silence was answer enough. "I'll move you again. Increase security. He'll find me. He always does." Natalie's voice broke. "Diana, he's threatening my mother. He has access to her hospital. How do I fight someone who's willing to kill a dying woman to control me?" "The same way you fought him today, by refusing to be small." Diana's voice was steel-wrapped in compassion. "Victor wins when you're afraid. He loses when you're not. I don't know how to not be afraid. Then pretend until you're not pretending anymore." Diana paused. "Tomorrow, I'm announcing you as the senior interpreter for the summit. Victor will know you're working against him. This becomes a war. Are you ready for that?" Natalie looked at the photograph of her mother, sick, vulnerable, the only person in the world she'd die for. "No," she said honestly. "But I'm doing it anyway." Would announcing her role sign her mother's death warrant, or force Victor into a mistake that could finally destroy him? The announcement went public at noon. By 12:03, Natalie's phone was ringing. Victor's voice was silk wrapped around razors. Bold move, accepting Diana's offer. Especially considering our conversation yesterday. I'm done being afraid of you. Are you? He laughed, low and knowing. Check your email. The one from your mother's hospital. The one about the billing irregularity. Natalie's hands shook as she opened her laptop. There it was, a notice that her mother's insurance had been flagged for fraud investigation. All treatment suspended pending review. Process could take months. That's impossible. Everything's legitimate. Paperwork gets lost. Systems make mistakes. And suddenly, a dying woman sits in a hospital bed wondering why her daughter's insurance provider thinks she's been lying. Victor's voice was almost gentle. I can fix it with one phone call. Or I can make sure the investigation drags on until there's nothing left to save. Your choice. You're a monster.
I'm practical.
Next week, you'll interpret exactly what I need you to interpret. Small adjustments, nothing obvious. You're brilliant enough to make them sound natural. He paused. Your mother lives, your career continues, everyone wins. Or you play hero, and we both know how that ends. The line went dead. Natalie sat staring at the email, feeling the trap close around her. Victor had spent 3 months studying her, finding every pressure point. He knew she'd sacrifice anything for her mother. A knock at the door made her jump. Diana entered with a tall man, early 40s, kind eyes. This is James Hastings. He works for International Trade Security. He's been investigating Victor for 2 years. James sat across from Natalie, pulled out a tablet. I know he contacted you. I know he threatened your mother. And I know you're terrified. His voice was gentle. But I need you to understand something. Victor's been doing this for 15 years. 5 interpreters we know of. 2 committed suicide. 1 disappeared. The other 2 broke completely, ended up in psychiatric facilities. Natalie felt sick. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Because he's careful. Always plausible deniability, always clean hands. The interpreters he destroyed were too traumatized to testify, too afraid he'd make good on his threats. James leaned forward. You're different. You ran, which means you recognized the danger. You survived, which means you're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. Neither did they. But here's what Victor doesn't know. Your mother's insurance issue? I fixed it 20 minutes ago. Called in favors with the hospital administration. It's resolved. Hope flickered in Natalie's chest. He can't hurt her? He can try. But we have security at her hospital, monitoring every visitor, every staff member who enters her room. He got close once. He won't again. James pulled up photos on his tablet. 3 other interpreters from past summits. All of them were manipulated by Victor using similar threats. But one of them, Eduardo Castellano, Spanish delegate, kept records. Audio, financial transfers, everything. He's been waiting for someone brave enough to stand with him. Why hasn't he come forward himself? Because Victor threatened his wife and daughters. Sent him photos of them at school, at home, at the grocery store. Made it clear that exposure meant their destruction. James showed her a photo of Eduardo, haunted eyes, worn face. But if you stand up, if you expose Victor publicly, Eduardo will have cover. We all will. Diana spoke up. Victor operates in shadows. He controls through fear and isolation. The moment his methods become public, the moment his victims stand together, his power evaporates. What if standing up gets people killed? Natalie's voice was barely a whisper. What if staying silent does? James countered. Every summit Victor manipulates, Every negotiation he corrupts affects millions. Trade policies that hurt workers, environmental regulations that get gutted, agreements that benefit his private clients at the expense of public good. He paused. Your mother raised you to fight bullies. This is the biggest bully you'll ever face. Natalie thought about the other interpreters, the suicides, the psychiatric breaks, the disappeared woman. Thought about her mother, fighting cancer and still finding strength to tell her daughter to fight back. What do you need me to do? Your job. Interpret. But watch Victor. He'll try to manipulate the Italian and German delegations. We have intelligence suggesting he's already compromised their representatives. When he makes his move, you document it. Record everything. James handed her a device that looked like a pen.
Audio recorder.
Keep it on you. If you can catch Victor giving instructions, coordinating with compromised delegates, anything that proves manipulation, that's what we need. And if he realizes what I'm doing, then it gets dangerous. James didn't sugarcoat it. But you'll have protection. Diana's people, my team. And most importantly, you'll have the truth. Victor's greatest weapon is making his victims feel alone. You're not alone anymore. After they left, Natalie sat with the recorder pen, turning it over in her hands. Such a small thing to bring down a monster. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm Eduardo Castellano. James says you're willing to fight. I've been documenting Victor for 3 years. If you stand with me, I'll stand with you. But we only get one chance. If we fail, he destroys us all. Natalie stared at the message, her heart pounding. One chance. To expose a man who'd spent 15 years perfecting the art of control. Who'd driven interpreters to suicide and destroyed anyone who challenged him. One chance to finally be larger than her fear. She texted back, tell me what to do. Would one chance be enough, or would Victor's 15 years of practice prove impossible to beat? The summit began on a cold Monday morning, the Brussels Diplomatic Center gleaming with flags and careful ambition. Natalie stood in her translation booth, headphones on, watching delegates file into the circular hall below. Victor entered with the Italian ambassador, Luca Romano, leaning close and whispering. The ambassador's shoulders were tense, his smile forced. A man under pressure. Diana caught Natalie's eye from across the room, a subtle nod of solidarity. James had positioned people throughout the building. Eduardo was in the Spanish delegation, looking pale but determined. Everything was in place. The opening statements began, routine and diplomatic. Natalie translated mechanically, but her attention was on Victor, watching for the patterns James had described. The way he positioned himself between delegates. The subtle hand signals. The carefully timed interruptions. 2 hours in, during a break, Natalie's phone rang. Hospital number. Her stomach dropped. Ms. Corleone? This is Nurse Patricia. Your mother asked me to call. There was a man here earlier, asking questions about her treatment. Hospital credentials, said he was from a medical foundation reviewing care quality. What did he look like? 50s, well-dressed, very polite. But something felt off. Security checked his credentials. They were fake. He was gone before they could detain him. The room spun. Is my mother okay? She's fine. Shaken. Asking for you. A pause. Miss Corleone, she said to tell you, and I'm quoting, don't you dare let that bastard win. I didn't raise a coward. Despite everything, Natalie almost smiled. Can I talk to her? She's sleeping now. The stress exhausted her. But Miss Corleone. The nurse's voice softened. Whatever's happening, your mother is one of the strongest people I've ever met. She's not giving up. Don't you give up either. Natalie hung up, rage and fear warring in her chest. Victor had visited her mother. Had gotten past security, past James's people. Had terrified a dying woman just to prove he could. She pulled out James's recorder pen, hands shaking with fury instead of fear. When the summit reconvened, she was ready. Eduardo made his move during the trade regulation discussion, deliberately using an ambiguous Spanish phrase that could mean either "we propose modifications" or "we demand concessions."
Natalie watched Victor lean toward Luca Romano, whispering urgently.
The Italian ambassador's face went rigid. She translated Eduardo's statement clearly, removing the ambiguity. Spain proposes modifications and welcomes collaborative discussion. Victor's head snapped up, eyes finding her booth. He knew what she'd done, smoothed over the confusion he needed to manipulate the Italian position. He pulled out his phone, typed something. Seconds later, Natalie's phone buzzed. Cute. But there are other ways to create chaos. Watch. Victor stood, addressed the room in English. My apologies, but I've just received concerning information about our Spanish delegation. It appears there may be financial irregularities in Señor Castellano's recent disclosure statements. Eduardo went white. Victor continued, all false concern. I hate to derail proceedings, but integrity is paramount. Perhaps Señor Castellano could address these questions before we continue. The room erupted in murmurs. Eduardo sat frozen, knowing exactly what was happening. Victor was destroying his credibility before he could expose anything. Diana stood. Mr. Draven, this is highly irregular. Is it? Victor's smile was poisonous. Or is it irregular to have potentially compromised delegates participating in sensitive negotiations? I'm simply ensuring. You're ensuring chaos. Natalie's voice cut through her translation headset, broadcast to the entire room. She stood in her booth, visible to everyone. Because that's what you do. Create confusion, exploit fear, manipulate people through threats to their families. Victor's mask slipped for just a second, rage flashing across his features before he caught himself. Ms. Corleone, interpreters don't editorialize. And senior liaisons don't threaten dying women, but you visited my mother yesterday. Natalie pulled out the recorder pen, held it up. Did you think I wouldn't document everything? Your phone calls, your threats, your admission that you've been manipulating negotiations for 15 years. The room went silent. Victor's face drained of color. That recording is inadmissible. Is it? James emerged from the back of the room. Because I'm international trade security, and I've been investigating you for 2 years. That recording, combined with testimony from Señor Castellano and 3 other delegates you've coerced, is very admissible. Eduardo stood, shaking but resolute. Victor Draven has been blackmailing me for 3 years. He threatened my family, forced me to manipulate translations, to create confusion during negotiations. I have proof, financial transfers, recorded conversations, everything. This is absurd, Victor started, but Diana cut him off. The Italian ambassador has also come forward, as have delegates from Germany and Belgium. Diana's voice was ice. You're finished, Victor. For a long moment, Victor stood perfectly still. Then he laughed, a sound stripped of humor, empty of everything but venom. Finished. He turned to Natalie, and the mask was completely gone now, leaving only the monster underneath. You self-righteous little bitch. You think you've won. He pulled out his phone. 1 call. That's all it takes. 1 call to my contact at Mass General, and your mother's morphine drip develops a sudden malfunction. Medical errors happen all the time. The room gasped. James moved toward Victor, but Victor was faster, lunging at Natalie's booth, phone raised like a weapon. I'll bury you, he screamed, all composure shattered. Your mother dies screaming, and everyone will think it was the cancer. You'll know the truth, and it will destroy you. Security tackled him before he reached the stairs. His phone clattered across marble flooring. James picked it up, scrolled through the screen, then looked at Natalie. He just texted his contact at the hospital. Gave explicit instructions to handle the mother problem. We have everything. Victor struggled against the security officers, still screaming threats, his carefully constructed persona completely demolished. Diana spoke into the stunned silence. This summit is suspended pending a full investigation into corruption and coercion. Mr. Draven will be detained and charged. As they dragged Victor toward the exit, he locked eyes with Natalie one final time. "You just killed her," he hissed. "Whatever happens to me, you just killed your mother." Then he was gone, and the hall erupted into chaos. Natalie stood in her booth, shaking, the recorder pen still clutched in her hand. She'd done it. She'd exposed him. But Victor's final words echoed in her mind. "You just killed her." Her phone rang. Boston number. Had exposing Victor saved everyone, or condemned the one person Natalie couldn't afford to lose? Natalie answered with trembling hands. "Mom." Silence. Then beeping. Medical equipment. Harsh fluorescent noise. "Ms. Corleone?" A male voice, unfamiliar, urgent. "This is Dr. Reza, ICU attending. Your mother's been moved to intensive care. There was an incident with her medication." The phone slipped from her hands. Diana was there instantly, catching it, speaking into it while Natalie's vision tunneled. She heard fragments, stabilized, investigating, security breach, but none of it made sense through the white noise in her head. Victor's voice echoed, "You just killed her." "Natalie!" Diana gripped her shoulders. "She's alive. Your mother is alive." There was an attempt. Someone accessed her line, but security caught it in time. "She's in ICU as a precaution, but she's stable." "Someone tried to kill her." The words came out flat, emotionless, because feeling anything would shatter her completely. "Yes, but they failed." Diana's voice was firm, grounding. "James has federal agents at the hospital. The person who tried is in custody. Victor's contact, a pharmacy tech he'd been paying for 3 years." Natalie sank into a chair, her body suddenly too heavy to hold upright. She'd exposed Victor. She'd won. And her mother had nearly died for it. "I need to go to Boston." "Not yet. Victor's in custody, but we don't know how many other contacts he has. You leave Brussels, you're vulnerable." Diana crouched beside her. "Your mother is safe now. More protected than she's ever been. But you're not safe. Not until we know the full extent of Victor's network." "I don't care about being safe. I care about..." Natalie's voice broke. "She almost died because of me. Because I stood up. Because I stopped being small. She almost died because Victor is a monster who's been getting away with this for 15 years. Diana's voice was gentle but unyielding. "Don't let him twist this. You didn't put her in danger. You stopped him from putting countless others in danger. That pharmacy tech. He admitted to handling problems for Victor before. Your mother isn't his first victim. She's just the first one who survived." The words should have been comforting. They weren't. James entered, his face grim. "We need to talk. Now." In Diana's office, James pulled up files on a laptop. "The pharmacy tech is cooperating. He's given us names. 4 other people Victor had on payroll. 2 hospital workers, a nurse at a facility in Rome, someone in a Berlin clinic." He paused. "We're detaining all of them, but Natalie, there's something else." He turned the screen. An email, sent from Victor's account 20 minutes before his arrest. Plan B initiated. Corleone problem permanent by end of week. Payment as discussed. Natalie felt ice in her veins. He has someone else. Someone who's still out there. We're working on identifying them. Victor's lawyer isn't cooperating, and his phone was wiped remotely after his arrest. Sophisticated security protocols. James's expression was troubled. Whoever this is, they're a professional. And they have a deadline. Then put me on a plane to Boston. Let me be with my mother while you find them. That's exactly what they're expecting. You become a moving target, harder to protect. James leaned forward. The safest thing for both of you is for you to stay here, visible, protected, while we work the problem. The safest thing? Natalie laughed, bitter and broken. My mother is in ICU because the safest thing was exposing Victor. Because I listened to everyone saying standing up was right and running was wrong. Maybe everyone was wrong. Diana and James exchanged glances. You want to go back to hiding? Diana asked quietly. Back to serving coffee while Victor controls the world? Because he will, Natalie. Even from prison, he has power. He has connections. The only way to truly stop him is to dismantle everything, and we need you for that. You need me alive. My mother needs me alive. Natalie stood, her decision crystallizing. I'm going to Boston. Tonight. And if your mysterious assassin wants to find me, let them come. At least I'll be with the person I'm supposed to protect. Natalie, James started. No. Her voice was steel now, forged from fear and rage and exhaustion. I've listened to everyone else tell me what's right, what's brave, what's necessary. And my mother almost died. So now I'm making my own choice. I'm going home. She left the office before they could argue, walked through the diplomatic center's marble halls toward the exit. Her phone buzzed continuously. James, Diana, numbers she didn't recognize, but she ignored all of them. At the entrance, Eduardo was waiting. I heard what happened. His face was anguished. Natalie, I'm so sorry. If I had come forward sooner, if I had been braver. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I spent 3 years doing Victor's bidding because I was afraid. You spent 3 months. You were braver faster. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. I was going to give this to James, but you should have it. My wife Anna, she kept records too. Different things than I had. Names, dates, payments, everything. Natalie took the envelope, feeling its weight. There's something else in there, Eduardo said quietly. A letter Anna wrote. She wanted you to know, the woman in Rome, the nurse Victor had on payroll? She quit last month. Sent Victor a message saying she wouldn't help him hurt people anymore. He had her daughter kidnapped for 3 days. Eduardo's voice cracked. That's who we're fighting. Someone who hurts children to maintain control. Natalie opened the envelope. Inside, along with documents, was a photograph, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, smiling at the camera. On the back, in shaky handwriting, this is Sophia. Victor took her to punish me for saying no. She came back broken. Don't let him break anyone else. The taxi Natalie had called pulled up. She stood on the sidewalk, the envelope in her hands, the photograph of Sophia burning into her mind. Running to Boston meant abandoning the fight. Meant leaving people like Sophia vulnerable to monsters like Victor. But staying meant risking her mother's life, again, for strangers she'd never meet. She thought about her mother's voice. Don't you dare let that bastard win. Thought about Sophia's broken smile. Thought about the 2 other interpreters who'd committed suicide rather than keep fighting. The taxi driver rolled down the window. Miss? You getting in? Would Natalie run to save the one person she loved, or stay to save everyone else from the monster she'd unleashed? Natalie stood on that Brussels sidewalk for 10 seconds that felt like a lifetime. Then she sent the taxi away. Not because she was brave, but because the photograph of Sophia made her understand something. Her mother wouldn't want to be saved if it meant other children got broken. That wasn't the woman who'd raised her to fight bullies. That wasn't the life her mother was fighting cancer to keep living. She called Boston. The ICU nurse answered. Your mother's asking for you. Can you put her on? A moment later, her mother's voice, weak but unmistakably herself. You better not be on a plane. How did you? Because I know you. And I know that look you get when you're about to do something stupid to protect me. Her mother's breath was labored. Stay there. Finish this. Mom, someone tried to kill you. And failed. Because you exposed him. Because you were brave enough to stand up. A pause. Painful. Baby, I've been thinking about Sophia's picture, the one the nurse showed me from that envelope. That little girl. If you run now, if Victor wins, how many more Sophias? Tears streamed down Natalie's face. I can't lose you. You won't. I'm too stubborn to die before I see you win this fight. Her mother's voice softened. You know what's keeping me alive? Not the treatments. Not the drugs. It's knowing my daughter is out there being exactly who she was meant to be. Large, visible, taking up space. Don't make yourself small again. Not for me. Not for anyone. After they hung up, Natalie stood in the cold Brussels evening, feeling something shift inside her. Not the absence of fear. The fear was still there, sharp and present. But something else alongside it now. Purpose. Clarity. The understanding that some fights were worth the cost. She called James. I'm staying. Tell me how to find Victor's contact before they try again. That night, in Diana's secure office, they worked the problem. James had Victor's financial records spread across 3 screens: shell companies, offshore accounts, patterns of payments. Here. He pointed to a transfer made 3 days before Victor's arrest. 50,000 euros to a numbered account in Cyprus. That's the Plan B payment. Can you trace it? Working on it. But these accounts are designed to hide identity. James pulled up another screen. However, Victor made a mistake. The email about Corleone problem permanent was sent from his phone, but it was logged into a secure messaging app that requires facial recognition to access. So in the panic of being arrested, he unlocked his phone and fired off that message. Which means the app logged his face, his location, and, James smiled grimly, the recipient's last active location. Rome. The nurse. Anna mentioned a nurse in Rome. Maria Husu, 43, worked at a private clinic. Her daughter Sophia was taken last month, returned traumatized. James pulled up a photo, the same woman from Anna's file, tired eyes, haunted expression. She quit after that, moved to a different city. But 3 days ago, she received a payment from Victor's Cyprus account. He bought her silence by threatening her daughter again, Natalie said quietly. Or he bought something else. James looked troubled. Maria has access to medical supplies, knowledge of how to make deaths look natural. If Victor hired her for Plan B. She's not coming after me. She's going after my mother. Natalie felt the fear return, sharper now. James, she's a nurse. She can walk into that ICU without anyone questioning her presence. She can. I'm already calling Boston. James was on his phone before she finished speaking, rattling off instructions in rapid English. Security lockdown, no medical personnel access without triple verification, federal protection upgraded immediately. But Natalie was looking at something else on the screen, Maria's recent location history from the messaging app. James. She's not in Rome anymore. He looked. The blood drained from his face. Maria Russo's last active location was Boston. Logan Airport. Logged 2 hours ago. She's already there, Natalie whispered. James was shouting into his phone now, but Natalie barely heard him. Maria was in Boston. She had 12 hours before the end-of-week deadline Victor had set. She was trained, motivated by fear for her daughter, and desperate enough to murder a dying woman. Diana gripped Natalie's hand. James's people will find her. And if they don't? Natalie looked at the photograph of Maria, ordinary woman, destroyed by Victor's cruelty, turned into a weapon. She's not evil, Diana. She's terrified. Victor has her daughter. She'll do anything to keep Sophia safe, including killing your mother. Yes. Natalie stood, decision crystallizing. Which is why I need to talk to her. Not as an enemy. As someone who understands what it's like to have someone you love used against you. James lowered his phone. That's insane. You're proposing going to Boston, where an assassin is hunting your mother, to negotiate with her. I'm proposing we stop treating her like a villain and start treating her like Victor's victim. Because that's what she is. Natalie pulled up Maria's photo, stared at those haunted eyes. She doesn't want to do this. Victor forced her. So we unforce her. We show her there's another way. By offering what? Diana asked. The truth. Natalie pulled out Eduardo's envelope, the documents inside. Victor's arrest, his network being dismantled, proof that he can't hurt Sophia anymore. We give Maria her daughter back. And in exchange. She testifies, James finished, understanding dawning. She gives us everything about Victor's medical network. And she walks away. She gets to be a victim instead of a murderer, Natalie said. Everyone wins. Diana studied her. You've changed. 3 months ago, you ran from confrontation. Now you're running toward it. 3 months ago, I thought being small kept people safe. Natalie looked at Sophia's photograph, then at her phone, her mother's number on the screen. I was wrong. Victor wins when we're isolated, afraid, making choices based on fear. He loses when we stand together. James made 3 phone calls. Within an hour, they had a plan. Within 2 hours, Natalie was on a plane to Boston. And somewhere in that city, Maria Russo was watching a hospital, waiting for her moment, not knowing that the daughter she was trying to protect had already been saved. Would Natalie reach Maria in time, or would Victor's final victim become her mother's killer? Mass General Hospital at 3 a.m. was all harsh fluorescent lights and exhausted night staff. Natalie walked through corridors she'd memorized from too many visits, James beside her, federal agents positioned at every exit. They'd found Maria's hotel, a cheap place near the hospital. But she wasn't there, which meant she was here, somewhere, waiting. She'll try during shift change, James said quietly. 5:30, when everything's chaos. Easiest time to slip through. They had 2 hours. Natalie stood outside her mother's ICU room, watching through the window. Her mother was sleeping, looking small and fragile beneath hospital blankets. An armed agent sat inside, but Natalie knew that wouldn't stop Maria if she was desperate enough. How do we find her? Natalie asked. We don't. James pulled up Maria's photo on his phone. We let her find us. You're what she's here for. You're the threat to Victor. If we position you visibly, she'll approach. You want me as bait. I want her to see you as human, as someone who understands her situation. He paused. You said you wanted to talk to her. This is how. So Natalie sat in the ICU waiting room, visible through glass walls, and waited. 4:15 a.m. Nothing. 4:30 a.m. A nurse Natalie didn't recognize passed by, glanced at her, kept walking. 4:45 a.m. James's radio crackled, agents reporting positions, all clear. Then, at 4:52 a.m., the nurse came back. She stood at the waiting room entrance, staring at Natalie. Mid-40s, dark circles under her eyes, holding an 4-bag in hands that trembled slightly. Maria Russo. James tensed beside Natalie, hand moving toward his weapon. Natalie touched his arm gently. Wait. You're Catherine's daughter, Maria said in accented English. I've seen your picture. She talks about you constantly. You're Maria. Sophia's mother. Maria's face crumpled at her daughter's name. He has her again. Victor. He took her 3 days ago. Said if I don't do what he wants. She couldn't finish. Victor was arrested 4 days ago, Natalie said gently. In Brussels. He's in custody, facing multiple charges. He can't hurt Sophia anymore. You're lying. But Maria's voice was uncertain, desperate to believe. James pulled out his phone, showed her news footage, Victor being led away in handcuffs, headlines in Italian about the corruption scandal. Maria stared at the screen, the 4 bags slipping from her hands. He said he had people. That even if he was caught, Sophia would. He lied. Natalie stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Victor controls people through fear. He made you think he was invincible. But he's not. He's just a man in a prison cell, losing power every day. Sophia. Maria's voice broke completely. Where is she? Safe house in Rome. James's team extracted her yesterday. James pulled up another photo. Sophia smiling, holding a stuffed animal, very much alive and safe. Maria collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I thought, he said if I didn't, your mother didn't do anything wrong. I knew that. But he had my baby. I know. Natalie sat beside her, this woman who'd come to kill her mother, and felt only compassion. Victor used my mother to control me too. That's what he does. He finds the people we love and turns them into weapons against us. I'm a nurse. I'm supposed to save people. Maria looked at her hands like she didn't recognize them. What was I going to do? Something you couldn't take back. Something that would have destroyed you. Natalie took Maria's trembling hands in hers. But you didn't. You're here, and my mother is alive, and Sophia is safe. You can still be the person you were before Victor broke you. How? Maria's eyes were devastated, lost. How do I come back from almost murdering someone? By helping us make sure Victor can never do this to anyone else. James crouched beside them. You know his medical network. The people he paid, the systems he compromised. Testify. Give us everything. Help us dismantle what he built. And Sophia? Goes home with you. Protective custody until the trial, then witness protection if you want it. New names, new city, new life. James's voice was firm but kind. You get to be a mother again. Not Victor's puppet. Maria looked at Natalie, searching her face. Why are you being kind to me? I came here to kill your mother. Because you're not my enemy. Victorish. Natalie thought about the photograph of Sophia, about all the people Victor had destroyed over 15 years. And because if I don't show you mercy, I become like him. I won't let him turn me into that. At 5:30 a.m., as shift change chaos filled the hospital, Maria Russo walked into an FBI office and began telling everything she knew. At 6 a.m., Natalie sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hand while she slept. At 7 a.m., her mother woke up, saw her daughter's face, and smiled. You stayed. I stayed. And Mom, it's over. Victor's network is being dismantled. The woman he sent, she's cooperating. She's not going to hurt you. I never thought she would. Her mother's voice was weak but certain. People who've been hurt rarely want to hurt others. That's what Victor never understood. At noon, Diana called with news. Eduardo's testimony, combined with Maria's information, had triggered an avalanche. 7 more of Victor's contacts had come forward. 2 judges he'd compromised. A hospital administrator. A translator in Berlin who'd been too afraid to speak. The network was collapsing. At 3 p.m., James showed Natalie the charges: corruption, coercion, conspiracy, attempted murder. 15 years minimum. Probably 25. And his victims? Most are cooperating. Some want anonymity. But Maria, she's talking to other women he controlled. They're forming a support group, calling it Sophia's Courage. James smiled. You started something, Natalie. Not just taking down one man, but giving his victims permission to heal. At 6 p.m., Natalie sat in the hospital cafeteria, exhausted and wrung out. Her phone buzzed. A message from Eduardo. Thank you for showing us that standing up doesn't mean standing alone. Then another, from Klaus Weber, the German minister. The summit reconvenes next month. Will you interpret? We need voices of integrity. Then another, from a name she didn't recognize. I'm an interpreter in Madrid. I was being manipulated by a liaison here. Your story gave me courage to report him. Investigation opened today. Thank you. One by one, messages came in. People Victor had controlled, people who'd watched Natalie stand up and found their own courage. At 8 p.m., Natalie returned to her mother's room. Her mother was awake, looking stronger. You did it, her mother said. We did it. You told me not to let him win. I told you to take up space. Looks like you took up all of it. Her mother laughed, then winced. The doctors say the treatment is working. The stress somehow kick-started something. They're cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic is better than 6 months. Much better. Her mother gripped Natalie's hand. Stay in Europe. Do the work you were meant to do. I'll be fine. I know you will. But I'm staying in Boston for 2 weeks. You need someone to boss around during recovery. I can live with that. They sat together in comfortable silence, mother and daughter, both survivors, both fighters, both finally safe. But would Natalie return to the world that had broken her, or was the real victory learning she was already whole? 3 weeks later, Natalie stood in the Geneva conference room, surrounded by interpreters from 40 countries, all gathered for the inaugural session of the UN Translation Ethics Initiative. Through the window, she could see the building where the infamous Geneva summit had taken place, where Victor had used her, where she discovered his betrayal, where she'd chosen to run rather than fight. But she wasn't running anymore. Welcome, she said, rotating through 5 languages with fluid precision. We're here because translation matters. Because words build bridges or start wars. Because precision and integrity aren't optional, they're essential. She looked around the room, young interpreters just starting, veterans who'd seen negotiations collapse over misplaced words, people from every corner of the world united by language. Some of you know my story. How I made mistakes. How I was manipulated. How I ran. She paused. I'm not proud of running, but I'm proud of coming back. And I'm proud to build something with you that ensures no interpreter faces what I faced, alone. After the session, she checked her phone. A photo from her mother, giving a thumbs up in Dr. Chen's office. The caption, 3-month scan clear. They're using the word remission. We did it, baby. Natalie pressed the phone to her chest, feeling tears come. Good tears. Earned tears. Another message, from Maria Russo, a photo of Sophia, smiling genuinely now, playing in a park. She's laughing again. Really laughing. Thank you for giving us our lives back. And one from Diana, proud of you. The summit reconvenes in 2 weeks. Victor's replacement is transparent, ethical, everything he wasn't. You helped make that possible. Natalie walked through Geneva's old town as evening fell, past cafes where she'd once met with delegates, past the apartment she'd fled from, past all the geography of her former fear. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just a city, beautiful, complicated, full of memories both painful and precious. Her phone rang. Eduardo. Natalie. You won't believe this. The Reform Commission wants me to lead a new transparency initiative, overseeing all future trade negotiations. He sounded amazed. They said if someone who made mistakes can find courage to fix them, they trust me to prevent others from making the same ones. That's perfect, Eduardo. None of this happens without you. You know that, right? After they hung up, Natalie sat in a cafe, ordered coffee, and opened her laptop. An email waited from Klaus Weber. We'd like you to speak at next year's International Diplomacy Conference. Topic: When silence becomes complicity. Interested? She was. Very much so. Another email, from a university in Brussels. Would you consider teaching a semester course on translation ethics? Your story has inspired our students. Another, from a documentary producer. We're making a film about corruption in international diplomacy. Your willingness to speak truth to power changed everything. Will you participate? Requests, opportunities, recognition. Not because she was perfect, but because she'd been broken and chosen to heal visibly. That evening, she video called her mother, who was sitting up in bed, looking healthier than she had in a year. "How's my superstar daughter?" "Overwhelmed. Grateful. Still a little scared." "Good." Fear with purpose is just another word for courage. Her mother smiled. "I'm coming to Geneva next month. Doctor cleared me for travel. I want to see where my daughter is changing the world." Just Geneva. Not the world. Geneva today, the world tomorrow. That's how it works when you stop making yourself small. After they hung up, Natalie sat at her window, watching Geneva glitter in the darkness. She thought about the journey, from interpreter to waitress to fugitive to advocate. About Victor, imprisoned and powerless. About Maria and Sofia, healing together. About Eduardo, transformed from victim to leader. About herself, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, no longer anything but exactly who she was meant to be. Her phone buzzed one final time. A message from a young interpreter in Syria. "I was being manipulated. Your story gave me courage to report it. Investigation started today. You saved me without knowing me. Thank you." Natalie stared at the message, understanding finally what her mother had meant about taking up space. She'd spent 3 months invisible, convinced that smallness equaled safety. She'd been wrong. Safety came from visibility, from standing together, from refusing to let fear make you smaller than you were meant to be. She texted back, "You saved yourself. I just showed you it was possible. Now go show someone else." Then she closed her laptop, looked out at the city that had once broken her, and smiled. Tomorrow, she'd interpret at the Reformed Summit. Next week, she'd teach that ethics course. Next month, she'd show her mother that the life they'd fought for, both of them in different ways, was worth every terrifying moment. But tonight, she'd just sit here, in the city that knew her story, and be exactly who she was. Large. Visible. Unafraid. Taking up all the space she deserved. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt small or scared or unseen, share your experience in the comments. Your story matters. And if you haven't subscribed, join our ducal family. Hit the subscribe button now and share with your friends and family that deserves to be seen or heard.